Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock. I'm calling the Resources and Infrastructure meeting of April 8th to order. We have all committee members present, so we have a quorum. We have staff present. We have the general manager, Matthew McElhaney, our utilities manager, Jim Green, our program manager, Tristan Reaper, our finance manager, Denise Fritz, and she's also our administrative department manager, and our confidential administrative assistant, Haley Dotson. We have 2 directors and 2 members of the public on Zoom. I have a chair report. Do we have any ad hoc committee subcommittee reports other than the prioritization of the CIP list, because that is an agenda item? Are there any other subcommittee reports? Okay. Seeing none, is there any committee member communications, or is there anything a committee member would like to mention that they've been working on that might be of interest to the RMI committee?
Just continuing to work on the solar panels or the water generating panels with sourced, and it's been a challenge getting communication, establishing communication with them. Although I did get a call back like a couple of days ago, so I'm waiting a call from one of their marketing directors on economies of scale. Okay. For panels.
Okay, that's
I
great.
don't have it.
Okay. And then, Mr. Williams, have you, found any more information on the electromagnetic survey?
No, I have not. We have not. I haven't met with Mr. Green yet to discuss which areas we might want to look at.
Okay.
So that's the next step that we have to do, is identify the areas. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Amadei, you had something you wanted to
I
report
was
on?
just gonna add in, I attended the online workshop to continue staying in parallel deadline with the grant. So I know we're trying to flesh out what that may be. They did extend the deadline. I apologize. I want to say till
June 30th.
June. I was in the first week of June now instead of the latter part of May, so it gives us a little bit more wiggle room. This looks like a very obtainable grant. It's a matter of what we're framing in.
That's good.
Yeah. And the workshops, I mean, they are so informative and literally, I have a better word, just think, begging us to go, please submit. I've never seen a grant process where they're this involved with a rep trying to like call us back, or if you have questions, or they're wonderful. So I really would love to see us take advantage of this submission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any update on, I believe that, well, maybe that's part of your utility report, but the grant for the skate park for the maintenance, the Tony Hawk grant?
Yes, I can report on that, and I know Matthew can as well. We've resubmitted it. Not due to anything we had done wrong. They had gone through some changes with their board and how their software was working, and they requested everybody who was pending to resubmit. We reframed the application. Thank you to our general managers and to Haley. Reframed the application to be completely centric to maintenance only, and we've requested the biggest grant that they'll award, which is $25,000, which would be wonderful to seed the account that we already have the $5,000 from the Lions Club. So let's fingers crossed. I did reach back out to Andre, who's the rep on that side. I know he has everything and it's in review. He really didn't give us a clear understanding as to when we might hear from them. So I'll just keep checking in every 2 to 3 weeks. And let's keep our fingers crossed on the 25,000.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Haley, normally, the person who's speaking fills the screen. Did I not click something I needed to click on the computer? On my end, it shows speak to you. I think we check the setting. The speaker.
No, I'm trying to.
That's up there. It's view up here. Yeah, up here. That's on speaker. Should we do gallery? Let's try gallery. There we go. Thank you. I'm used to my Apple. I'm not used to this computer.
Karen, may I add in one other thing that completely hit me? The biggest skate event of the year for our area, which is called Monster Skate Series, is going right now. One of our kids won first place on Saturday in the other under 10 division. So big shout out to Vivi. She made us proud and was at Templeton Skate Park and won. So considering we don't have a park and our kids are winning, that says a lot. It says that they're driving right now to other parks to practice, which encourages me even more to be able to put it right here for them. So that was exciting. Monster Skate will be all the way through, well, there'll be 4 more between now and I want to say June.
Okay.
Do they rotate around at different facilities?
Yes, so
Okay.
as soon as our park is
Right.
done, the gal who runs that, Paula,
Mhm.
she's ready for us. I mean, they would love to include us in that series. Right now, you've got Templeton, you've got Slow, Atascadero's in there. Napomo made the cut this because it's new,
Mhm.
but Napomo's got some tricky requirements on how they're allowed to use their park. They won't shut the park down just for the series. They keep it open to the public while the series is going. I think that's just some regulations within the requirement of that park, but Napomo was put into the circulation this time. Which was really cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Is there any public comment on what we discussed so far? I don't see any hands up. Okay, we'll move on to the Utilities Department Manager Report. Mr. Green, you're on.
Thank you, Christine. We'll start off today. We're going to talk about the San Simeon Wellfield Transmission main project. As we voted on our last session of R&I for the alignment number 3, it goes to the board this Thursday for board approval. And we have a meeting set with Canon for Monday for next steps. After that, based on board approval and what have you. General Manager McElhenney and myself are meeting with state parks to describe, and we've sent them our information and our alignments. We haven't had much correspondence back and forth yet, so we look forward to talking to them tomorrow and seeing what they have for to kind of bring to the table, or if there's any issues or concerns. They've expressed since the initiation of this project that they'd be willing to help us with the permitting process and what other necessary. So from the surface, it looks like we have their backing. So we'll see tomorrow when we get to talk to the gentleman face to face. I got some really good news about the water replacement project. I've been working very collaboratively with the finance department, and I appreciate Ms. Fitz's help with all that. And we have just cut our first check and put our first order in for just over 1,700 meters or 1,700 endpoint replacements. Those arrived May 30th, and we've already got some plans for installation and how we're going to proceed with our initial phase of installation there. So that's some really good news, and then it's coming just in time for us. EV charging station, I don't think I need to say anything more. We have the fantastic new unit right out front. We're integrating use right now with ChargePoint, so that way we can charge and get that application based and in billing and all that software and stuff behind the scenes worked on, but that should be not too far down the road here.
And then you just gotta go through final sign offs.
It does,
From the
yeah.
county,
We'll need a PTO, a permanent to operate from the county. So,
Is that why it says disabled currently?
right, yeah,
Because that hasn't been done yet.
right, yeah. Community park restroom, Tristan, did you want to touch on anything about physical restroom right now? We're good, okay. Kind of just at a standstill right now. I know
It's
we'll be
ordered.
talking. It is ordered. It's fortunately for us, we had the engineering done several years ago, so that 46-week lead time, if you have your engineering done, shrinks to 32 weeks. So not a huge decrease in the lead time duration, but that definitely helps.
When you say it's ordered,
PO's been purchased and we've sent the money over and They're gonna start.
We're on that clock right now. So
Got it.
basically, we're like 0.5 weeks into that 32-week lead time.
I had a picture of something just showing up on a flatbed saying, here's your rest.
Here you go.
Like that, it's close to that.
Might be close.
Pretty close to
Yeah.
that. Okay,
That's
all righty.
That was my understanding is it's prefab and they will be
It's all
bringing it in a
prefab.
flatbed truck and putting it in place of crane. And I want to be there to watch it.
I didn't realize it was prefab. I thought
Yeah.
that was gonna be built on site. Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right.
So it's all, so we're all approved, huh, through the county?
well, we're still going through the construction permitting process with that, but the planning portion of it is through. And so, yeah, we should take about another,
We're on like round 2 of their approval process, right?
right,
Something like that?
yes. Basically, and I think they, what did we say, about 6 to 8 weeks for construction approval, permitting approval?
I think so, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what their timeline is.
But we're running parallel, in other words.
Yes, we're on track with that. So fantastic. Skate park, speaking of bathrooms, the skate park bathroom, we put that out to, R&I. There's a small little area in the skate park where we can put just, shy of 60 square foot, small little single door facility there with a utility room for cleaning agents and tools and so forth. And, that'll go through pros this week, or next week rather, for, I believe they'll vote on color and that sort of thing. So that's come along well. Stewart Street Tank Project. We've got our preliminary geotechnical report back. So if you guys just allow me here, I'll kind of read from my notes. And the current tanks that we had in, separated by a minimum of 3 feet. Our tanks that are installed now never had that 3-foot separation. That's California Building Code requirement. Also, our 12-inch depth pad will not be thick enough for seismic value, in California Building Code has brought that up to a 2-foot or 24-inch thick pad. That's to run your seismic kind of dowling or screws in that help anchor that. There are 36-inch long bolts that will have 12 of them around the perimeter for each tank, and that has to be set in that foundation when they pour. So we'll also be separating it a little bit onto our other property. So we'll have a grading area, we'll have to adjust the existing grade and then finish grade to make sure that no permeation, so no runoff affects the foundation of those tanks there. So that's coming up. We also have a meeting with Canon, I think is next week, to go over any of the further updates. The shallow foundations also, so the new updated building code also needs 4,000 PSI per square foot of new pads. So that's another reason why our existing pads would not have cut the mustard for new installation tanks. Along the lines of this too, forgive me if I've said this too many times or being redundant, but our tanks will be taller. So they'll weigh more, they'll have more panels, and that's for the sloshing wave from a seismic event. So they'll have to be 3 foot of freeboard above the overflow tank now, the overflow piping, which right now we're about a foot over that. So just a couple extra reasons why we need to do some alterations to the design of the foundations. I've been promised by our consultants that this will not extend or delay the design process of this, and we're looking for a 65% design there by June, which we can then submit to CEQA and complete our application, which this completion of the CEQA application then leads to our funding from the EPA. We do have a meeting with Leah Teague, who's our project officer from the EPA, who's going to review our technical corrections that we have with our preliminary geotechnical report. They're pretty minor. If they were more major components, that could delay funding from basically the middle of the year to about the 3rd or 4th quarter of the year, but we don't foresee that as happening right now. So we're continuing to track parallel along with that as well. I think that about brings us up to date on all the projects.
Okay, does anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr. Raines? Anybody in the public? Okay, I have one member with a hand up of the public, Ms. Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair Dean. Yes, I do have a question in relationship to the access to the East Ranch, and I brought it up on another occasion, and that is a road, a paved road to go to the rodeo, from the rodeo grounds to the dog park and to the restroom and to whatever else will end up being on the East Ranch. But, you know, with the amount of rain we've had and with that not being a paved road really is really concerning. And it's almost like, again, putting the cart before the horse. It would seem that a paved road would make much more sense before any other projects. But obviously the restroom is in process and getting closer and closer to being completed. But I really, has anybody heard? I think that when I brought it up before, that there was some mention that there'd been contact or was going to be contact with the county. So I have that's a question I have. And I do have another question for Mr. Green, but it might be more appropriate at public comment. But it is to do with infrastructure, and that is the SR3 well. I'd like to know, how long has the SR3 well been out of commission? Because it seems like it's been a really long time.
Okay. Is that it? If you're done with your comment, I'll go ahead and have Mr. Green respond.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, we'll start off with the Rodeo Grounds Road, the actual road itself. It is a county road, so it's county maintained, and we have reached out and had some dialogue with Public Works there, and no correspondence back as far as like a permanent fix for asphalt or concrete or what have you. Initial estimates on that, just for paving, were in the $1 million mark. So we would definitely need some assistance, and the county would probably need some assistance in paving that road.
Can I follow up with that, Jim?
Sure, yeah, please.
The board is also gonna be putting together a resolution to the county as a message from the CCSD, urging them to do something with that road to fix it. And we'll be reaching out to Mr. Gibson and Mr. Blake, Fixer, to discuss it with them. So we'll be speaking with them on the back end. But we are putting forward a resolution kind of as a message to the county that we would like them to take care of that.
Very good. Santa Rosa Well 3. The March 9th and 10th storms obviously took its toll on the electrical and some other issues there at the wellhead that is in Tin City, or the village down there. The electrical portions of that have all been repaired. It is operable. We sample from that well site monthly. Currently, right now, we are not processing from there. We had a sanitary survey, which happens every 3 years with the Division of Drinking Water. And in the closing part of that application, they asked us, due to raw water quality there, to consider our CT calculation, and I'll get into that real quick. So CT is calculation of chemical and time. They deemed that the clear wells that we had in there weren't providing enough contact time for the chemical to take before hitting the distribution system, of course, after being installed for several decades or more. So we have removed that tank. The tank was failing that clear well, and we are working closely with the Division of Drinking Water to build a new tank that would have more residence time inside the tank as it circulates around the chemically treated water before then being released to the distribution system. So we're kind of at the mercy right now of the Division of Drinking Water and seeing what their requirements are going to be met. And then we'll go ahead and build a clear well tank accordingly with that.
Okay, so at the moment, we're not able to use SR3.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, did you want to touch on the quality of that water?
Sure. So SR3 is our most shallow well. It also has our worst water quality. The hardness from there is the constituents of hardness, calcium, magnesium, there are the hardest there of any of our other well sites. Also, the organic load that is there is the hardest to treat in our district. So I kind of agree with maybe the division of drinking water a little bit, as we need to maybe reassess the contact time there at that treatment head there that is rodeo grounds actually. And with organics and so forth and the raw water quality, you have to use a lot more chemicals, which is something that we try not to do unless we absolutely have to. So SR3 for us is kind of our last ditch effort, but we will get that running here. The season for the Santa Rosas also comes up in May and we run through October. So we'll have that up and operable during that dry season this year. And again, we just have to build a tank and plumb it.
Okay. Mr. Williams?
Yes, if the water quality is that bad because of biologics, would it be beneficial to try and deepen the well or something there? I assume it's possibly under the influence of the river there,
Right. So
yeah, so could we deepen the well and sort of solve some of our problems or not?
I don't think more volume would be a solution. It's more the source quality itself. And those source qualities haven't changed.
Yeah, I was wondering if we just move the screen, actually blank off the screen we have and move it down, so you get more filtration through the ground. Might not be worth it though. Just.
It's something to consider. No, yeah.
Okay.
Why we have a hydrogeology?
Yeah, no, I was thinking,
committee.
things very seriously.
Hey,
Yes.
you know, everything looks like a nail to me. I have one shot and that's it.
Very good.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? No. Okay, we kind of carried on into public comment already, but I'm going to go ahead and do public comment on items not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the R&I committee. Do we have anybody wishing to make a public comment? Do we have anybody on Zoom wishing to make a public comment on items not on the agenda? I don't see any hands up. So we'll go ahead and move to the consent agenda. Minutes of the March 11th meeting and the agenda packet. Again, Mr. Williams, as our committee secretary, did an excellent job, and I really appreciate the fact that he did time stamping on all the agenda items. Does anybody have anything on the in the minutes that needs to be corrected or amended? Any errors? Seeing none, does somebody like to make a motion to accept the minutes as written? Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Ms. Amadei?
Aye.
Mr. Meeks?
Aye.
Mr. Seaver?
Aye.
Did I miss somebody? Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay. Passed unanimously. Okay, so now we're going to receive the ad hoc committee report on prioritization and ranking of the capital improvement projects, the CIP list, and discuss the prioritization criteria that was utilized and the purpose for the use of the CIP list. It was both project being worked on by the ad hoc committee as well as our utilities manager and our department manager, Ms. Fritz. So who would like to take it to start on this?
I can start with the scope, and this is something that we worked collaboratively with our ad hoc committee on. First thing we did was kind of establish what are your top criteria for CIP. So we kind of summarized it based on 3 structural elements that are safety, regulatory compliance, and which kind of co-align with health and community safety, And then urgency and outstanding improvements in asset condition in both water and wastewater systems. For safety, it's immediate or long-term improvements for operational safety that will support a safer work environment and a safe environment for the community. Projects that provide measurable environmental improvements for the project's life. Example would be increasing water quality, improving air quality by reducing pumping or motor operation, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Regulatory and compliance portion of that is ensuring regulatory compliance for water and wastewater treatment. Compliance standards increase each year, so maintaining a reliable and efficient operations in both water and wastewater departments is necessary to ensure continued health and protection of the community. Other regulatory requirements include air quality, odor control, and record keeping, operational integrity of existing facilities, and improvements needed to address future regulatory changes and wet weather treatment capabilities. And finally, we have the urgency, outstanding appointments and asset improvements. Fortifying system reliability and essential daily operation are integral to this plan. Investing in and replacing or upgrading existing infrastructure to ensure the district can maintain reliability and quality by replacing aging facilities before failure occurs. This programmatic approach for the projects in the CAP provides timing and definition of project implementation such that the investments can be prioritized and scheduled with the CIP to confirm the district continues to fill its mission and meet its goals.
Ms. Fritz, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I'm just taking note.
Okay. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to discuss is during our joint meeting of R&I and Finance, we talked about the ranking, how we were going to notate the ranking in the CIP list. And we talked about using a B for the items that were budgeted, a 1 for the next important projects that need to be done, a 2 for those following that, and a 3 for those things that were not quite as urgent, but when we could fit them into the budget,
Still priority.
they're still a priority. And so as the ad hoc committee, since I wasn't involved with the ad hoc committee personally, is that what the ad hoc committee did? Did you work through and rank them by the B and then the numbers below them according to the criteria that you have on this report?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the way the ranking was developed. We had a B1, 2, 3 system. Yeah.
Okay, and then at the same time, you took into consideration what the approximate budget was going to be for this upcoming fiscal year? Oops.
And so, next week you will see in the special meeting, I've been working with all the managers. You'll see the draft CIP list that we're gonna be, using for the budget, and it has the B and the 1, 2, 3 ranking. And the ones that are the 1 are the ones that we're asking for, actually asking to be budgeted for 24, 25.
Okay,
So that's how if it's marked a 1, that means that is our request for the new budget year.
okay, and the ones that are B are the things that are already in the
Yes.
budget?
Yes.
Okay. And then we were gonna talk about the purpose and the use of the CIP list.
Yes.
And when we discussed this in our joint meeting, we talked about this being both a finance document and a document to track the stage of the projects, not only where they were in prioritization, but where they were in the progress, the items that are budgeted. So we know how much money a project's gonna cost and how much we have spent so far in through the fiscal year. So is that the way we're looking at it still?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so in the very beginning, when the R&I committee was first formed in 2018, our then district engineer utilities, well, he was a combination utilities manager, engineer, or just the district engineer, Bob
No,
Rushins.
Yeah, I think he was Slash.
He was Slash, okay. He brought the R&I list, the CIP list to the R&I committee, so we would know what the infrastructure projects needed, that were needed. And they were kind of prioritized a little bit, but it was a document that we used just to track projects. And then it slowly became a budgeting document as well. And so to me, this works to combine the two uses of the document. So that's what we're doing then, right? Yes. Okay, good. And then since then and before COVID, we had several meetings with myself and one other R&I member, and I believe it was well, I was vice chair at the time, but one other R&I member with the utilities department. And Tony's not here, but Tony was part of it too, Tony Artho. And we went through the prioritization of the list and almost everything ended up a 1. So I'm glad that we are doing it this way and coming up with an actual method of prioritizing them. So, yeah.
And then relating that to budgetary dollars too.
Yes, and so, I mean, I know everyone at this committee has seen what the proposed new format looks like, but I think next week it's a real version going forward, so it'll all kind of make sense, and it's with real projects and real dollars. And also I will, I have been tasked with writing up, like, what is the CIP process? Meaning I want to write a calendar so we stay on track, and also making it more, I know we really focus on utilities, but there is a general fund component to this. So that will also be included and mention that, the work of the ad hoc committee, all of the good work that they did, it'll all be in one document with the ranking. So that portion of it is not completed, like, writing it up. And I think that I'm gonna have a subcommittee with R&I and finance to like just finalize the document. So I'm, working on that, and that's why I'm taking notes, but, I think that next week you'll really see like what it looks like. But with the ranking too, even if something's a 3, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not important, because we're looking at all these things, and one of those is the financial feasibility. If there's something we really, really need to do, but it's $5 million, that's not gonna be a 1, right? Because we have to have further discussion on how are we gonna fund that. So, I think importance is not the only thing that you can attach to the ranking.
Okay, so our ad hoc committee of R&I mainly worked on the enterprise fund projects.
Yes.
Water, wastewater, and the WRF. So are you working then with the managers of the general fund?
Yeah,
Okay.
and General Manager McElhaney and I sat with them. It's a much, I guess, easier process, because there's, I guess, not as much money available in the projects. So we sat, but you will be seeing those projects next week as well.
Okay.
And I think as R&I still need to put the seal of approval on those projects.
Yeah, and then forward it to finance.
Yes,
Okay.
and it is forwarded to finance through the preliminary budget process. It's not forwarded to them as a singular document. It's forwarded to them within the whole budget.
Okay, so when we review this next week as the R&I committee, are we approving it to forward to finance, or what is?
You're approving it to be included in the preliminary budget.
Preliminary budget.
Yes.
Okay, but now
And if that process needs to change, we can discuss that, because this is my first time too. So if it needs to go before finance as a singular document, I'm not quite sure of how it's gone in the past, but everything I could find record wise was that it was just included in the preliminary budget.
So in the past, okay, so we reviewed the enterprise funds projects, but then all of the department managers came to an R&I meeting and expressed their needs for the upcoming budget, including the general fund departments. And then we gave our stamp of approval on it. And I think it went to finance, but I cannot say whether it was a separate document or part of the
I
budget.
don't think it was a separate document, and I do have a timeline I'm working on, and so in January, I was having the department submit their requests. And then it would, that full list, so it would include general fund and utilities, would make it to R&I in February. Which is very early, like, the utility manager and I have talked about, we're making a lot of decisions really far out, so it's hard, some of these things may change, but, because January, February is pretty early, but for it to go through all the committees and get all of those approvals, April, any changes would be brought back to the R&I committee for its final seal of approval, because the preliminary budget goes before the finance committee in May.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm talking about, is in January, or February, I would present the preliminary list to R&I and we would include all the budget, the managers can come to the meeting and speak about why.
Okay, but to me, it sounds like a better process
Yeah.
because feels like we kind of got down to the
Yes,
wire
yes,
on
this
this.
year, yeah.
And yeah, I think your plan for next year is much better. So so this year, the department managers are not going to come to R&I like they have in the past?
I can have them come next week, but I think we're on a tighter time crunch because we didn't really
Right.
start early enough to really but that doesn't mean that you guys have to approve everything they're asking. You're more than welcome to ask questions. we might have to have more special meetings and stuff if that's the case, if it needs to come back, because I do have to get it before finance committee, the preliminary budget in May.
Okay.
But that is one of the reasons, and because I'm new and I was not involved in this process last year, I kind of didn't exactly know my role or like how. Anyways, and so that's why I'm documenting the process and like hopefully getting the seal of approval on it so we can be really clear on when it needs to come.
Okay. Did you have anything to add?
No,
Okay. Does anybody on the ad hoc committee have anything they want to relate their work on the ad hoc committee? No? Okay. Does anybody sitting here have any questions? No? Okay. Anybody on Zoom have any comments or questions on this report? I don't see any hands. Okay, thank you. So we're looking forward to getting all of this on Monday at 12:30.
stay tuned.
Yep, stay tuned. Okay, so moving on, and good work. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Discussion regarding long-term water supply development. This would be you, Mr. Green.
That's right. So I've had some recent discussions with the county, with some of their executives, high-ranking staff there who are developing a drought resiliency task force. They have $500,000 in funding that they're looking for. They have some scopes here, just some rough scopes that they're looking to add to this for funding. So this is the county of SLO. This has a lot of city of SLO stuff in there as well. But I think with San Simeon CSD, which looking like it's going to become a CSA for the county, I think they're taking another look at this area, are very northern. We've always kind of been on an island and kind of separated from a lot of county help and stuff as far as like water demands and infrastructure demands. But we've been asked to be a participant in this and a voting member in this drought task force. So I just wanted to bring that up and kind of seek your approval. See if we could be a voting member active in this participation. They're going to be working on supply and demand. Again, they're mostly worried about San Luis and a lot of stuff south of here. They'll be reevaluating the California Men's Colony, Cuesta College, the city of Morro Bay, of course, the County Operations Center off of Kansas Street, and then the Los Osos Community Services District as well. They're developing a drought monitoring framework and then response time. So when we see these drought or these impact stages come up, that we can already have responses or actions ready. And they'll perform a vulnerability assessment, again, over the areas that we've stated before. But with us as a voting member in that too, we'll be part of that vulnerability assessment year, which I think will be beneficial. And then mitigation action. They'll have alternatives will be evaluated and preferred projects would be developed to mitigate and identify vulnerabilities. So hopefully we can get our voice from this side of the county here and kind of put our 2 cents in and kind of help maybe some long-term water storage issues or other, potential needs met through this. So I'm just seeking your approval to be participants in there. And that would be General Manager Malcolm Henny, Project Manager Tristan Reaper, and myself.
Okay, but this is not only looking at the vulnerabilities of these areas you named off, it's to help us
It,
too.
it would be bringing us into that fold, yes.
Okay,
Without us being a participant or a voting member, I doubt we'd get a second look.
yeah, so you could,
So,
you three could speak up for us in our
Absolutely.
water needs.
Right.
Okay, good.
Right.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Green on this?
I just thought I'd point out, that it seems to me very important that you guys do participate in that. Some of the topics you mentioned, like looking at the CMC, for example, are really relevant to discussions about well rock allocations and things of that. Most of that water goes to the CMC. And if we're gonna-
1,400 acre foot annually.
Yeah,
1,400.
That's what they're allocated.
so I think that, being able to have a seat at the table is critical.
Right.
If you want to have a vote.
Mhm. As of now, through my correspondence with them, it doesn't look like they're reallocating whale rock allocations. But that'll definitely be a conversation topic and something that we can bring up. Yeah.
Okay, I see you also listed water supply storage, alternative water supplies, et cetera, and that also includes things like off-stream storage and
does.
reservoirs.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
anybody else? No? Mr. Dudzik, I'm sure you have a question.
Well, my first question is, any chance a member of the public could come along?
This will be internal first, whatever we report, we'll give that firsthand. And we always, I think we fairly accurately depict, the conversations and discussions during these meetings, but yeah, it'll just be for acting participating members.
So it's a drop meeting, right?
Yes, yes. From my understanding initially, it won't be like a Zoom or an invite or something public, but as meetings go on, I can suggest that so that way you all can tune in.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I have one hand up, Ms. Dickinson.
Thank you, Chair Dean. A couple of things on this report. So Mr. Green, when you mention San Simeon and which they voted now to be taken over by if possible, by the county through dissolution. What sort of, you're saying that maybe they would take another look at this area, north. I'd like to know maybe what, what do you mean by that? Another note that I made was, as far as Whale Rock, I've contacted the superintendent whose first name is Noah. I can't remember his last name now. He's still there. Years ago, I contacted him, and then, maybe 10 years ago, then maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And he said there are no more straws to be dipped in Whale Rock. So I think we should pretty well know by now that Whale Rock is not a possibility. Unless I'm wrong.
I
But
wouldn't rule it
that's-
out. You have 1,400 acre foot that are not up for grabs, but unaccounted for right now. So that's a
Okay, I
considerable.
wasn't through
amount
with
of
my
volume.
comments. I usually get to be finished with my comments and then there's a response.
Okay,
So, and then, of course, as being the person in this town who really did make an extraordinary effort to get a reservoir put in. And just, every year we're getting, 35, 40 inches of rain the last 2 years. But whenever we get water for off-stream storage, why is this still not being a consideration? The ad hoc committee kind of mentioned it, but there were no specifics. And to me and to the county at the time, to the water board at the time, to the coastal commission, it all made sense. They said I think the county said it's a no-brainer for Cambria. It is still a no-brainer for Cambria because we have a facility sitting out there with no CDP for almost, 9.5 years.
Well, we have
And
an emergency CDP.
you're not really supposed to be responding until I'm through. We have only, but you're talking about running it for 6 months, 24/7. You still do not have a way of eliminating or processing the brine waste. It's a big problem. And so when are you going to start really looking at what is viable? And that would be a reservoir. So I just don't know how many more years we have to go through this scenario. It doesn't make a bit of sense to me, but a reservoir would, and the reservoirs throughout the state of California, pretty much from all the rainfall we've been getting, are maxed out almost. We've even had Lopez Lake and I think Santa Margarita Lake overflowing. So, when are we going to start looking at something that really would work for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Very good. So we have been looking internally at some off-stream storage. We've even had some informal conversations with Creeklands Conservancy, as they are kind of the key holder and the gateway to coastal, and especially in some of these conservative areas. And Tristan would like to speak on that.
So we have been looking at it. I unearthed a report from the early 90s that talked about 3 different reservoir locations that I had been unaware of till that point. I'm working on digitizing that report so it can be made available to anyone who's interested.
These are 3 sites up San Simeon Canyon.
2 on Van Gordon Creek and 1 that was the product formerly known as Cambria Meadows, which is
CT
up
Ranch.
past, CT Ranch, up past the cemetery there. So we are looking at that, and we are looking at off-stream storage. I'm studying another project that was put together in Humboldt County. That one was put together primarily or almost exclusively for the use of the fish, which is an avenue that we are exploring as well, putting together something with the idea that it really replenishes the environment more than benefits the humans. But since we'd be putting the water in upstream of our well field, we'd end up benefiting anyway. So yes, we are attacking the off-stream storage at all angles because it is such a hot topic and such a area where we can make a project where the environment benefits and the humans benefit, so.
Okay.
And Jim, you have some knowledge about what we'd have to do with a reservoir in order to actually use the water?
Right. Yeah, like, sure. So it's not just storing it, it's treating it after the fact. And first of all, we'd have to get a diversion for storage permit, which right now we only have a diversion for use, direct use right now. So there's other discussions along with that. I think, like Tristan alluded to, primarily we're looking at the environmental scope of that, mitigating any potential, if any, impacts that we've had to aquatic life and the San Simeon, Van Gordon confluence there. And then, of course, then using it for public consumption also.
And then for the well rock, it's obviously not for sure. We don't know really what's up for grabs, but there's potential for us to investigate it. CMC is closing, which has a significant amount of acre feet allocated. I would say CMC is closing. They're downsizing, but I have some inside intel that could be the next prison that would close, which would open up a significant amount of water use. How that gets allocated, we don't know. But that's why it's important for us to sit at the table and at least listen to, and for the potential that there could be allocation from well rock. And then there's the long range financial issues that go with that. A very long pipeline could be expensive, but that's a part of this ad hoc committee. It's a part of our mission as a district to continue to look for other water sources. So we'll continue to knock on those doors, even if it becomes fruitless.
Right. Also with San Simeon's dissolution, they have an outfall, and their outfall would be 10 times what we need daily to discharge brine to. So there's some other conversations along with that are long-term. That's nothing that we're going to turn the corner on in a year or so forth, but it's just ideas outside the envelope that we're all looking at.
So the San Simeon outfall right now is only being used for wastewater effluent. I know it's grandfathered in, but it does discharge out into a marine sanctuary.
It does.
And the brine waste concentrate from, our WRF is a different composition than wastewater effluent. So is the Coastal Commission going to not want us to use that outfall for the WRF concentrate?
We'd have to evaluate, basically with the material we're putting out there, what inventory, and have that approved.
But in the meantime, we're still looking at zero liquid discharge. with
Absolutely.
1 truck a month.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
When it comes to the reservoirs, is there a certain amount of water that the reservoir needs to hold to be of benefit for our community?
Absolutely. So you always look at basically 3 years of storage, because droughts now are about 3 years in length. So we're looking at something that would be at least minimum of 1,200 acre feet of storage, probably closer to 1,500 acre feet of storage. And the reservoirs that were looked at prior to that, there was 3 or 4, and I don't think they even totaled that amount.
Well, even if they did total that amount as individual reservoirs not holding that much water, we've seen what happens to reservoirs during multiple years of drought. Lake Nacimiento gets down to the point where they can't have boats on it. Lopez Lake,
San Antonio.
San Antonio, all of those lakes get down to the point where there's not much water. So it needs to actually be a big enough reservoir for that 3 years worth of water.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Mr. Dudzik,
Well,
Bujic, excuse me.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the perspective, as I mentioned, last meeting or the meeting before, I appreciate the perspective that it's prudent, overall to see if you can find an off-stream storage project location that can handle your 1,200 acre feet or 1,500 acre feet per year. However, I think it's a good, while having this discussion, let's please bring in the fact that with CCSD looking at a portfolio of resources, to assume that any one of those resources has to meet the full demand, I think is constraining your options to the point where you're never going to get there. So, it's really prudent in doing, overall planning to say, yeah, that would be ideal. Let's look at that. However, if we can find one that's, for example, 200 acre feet per year, or a resource that can supply reliably 200 acre feet per year, that's a significant improvement in the situation that we have right now, particularly if that resource is not linked to the drought condition. So there's a lot of good reasons why the district went to the WRF. Looking at one of which is, it's not linked to the drought condition that's causing the problem. It doesn't go away when you have a drought. It may get less, but it doesn't go away. There's, as we've talked about last week, direct potable reuse is another example of a resource that doesn't go away when you have a drought. You still have wastewater.
Yeah, and direct potable reuse can be used anytime,
Yes.
not just during the drought. So we are not looking at a single large project. We are looking at a variety of projects, not just a single project. So yes, I agree. It needs to be a combination of things. And I think that's what we're looking at, isn't it?
Right, which is why we're looking at 3 different sites and still actively looking at direct potable reuse as well.
Yeah, okay. And with the direct potable reuse, I think we said that we still needed to put at least a third of the wastewater effluent into the percolation ponds
We do to maintain the
to
gradient,
maintain
yes.
this. Okay. Anybody else on the committee? Okay, I see. Oh, Mr. Williams.
Oh, I was only gonna, there is a question up there. No, go ahead. I was gonna wait till the end. I was gonna ask, does Mr. Green need anything from the committee, like a formal approval, or to say, yes, we think you should be going to this task force. I think that was the beginning of this item, was
Yeah,
he was
but-
looking for information on
Yes.
going to the task force,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Sorry,
know.
I'll go to the end, I'll wait till the end on
Ms.
that.
Dickinson's
Yeah.
already spoken, but I'm gonna let her speak again.
Yeah,
Okay, Ms. Dickinson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Dean. Well, the reservoir, as you all know, or maybe some of you know, that was brought forth by Mr. Warren and an engineer and a hydrogeologist and myself back on January 20th of 2014 was for a drywall canyon situation directly across from the San Simeon well field, where the capacity study that was done by Gus Yates, by the way, was for 600 to 700 acre feet a year. I mean, if Mr. Green is speaking, of course, about the permitting issues, then why would you be looking at three smaller ones that are going to require a ton more work through the State Water Board for permitting? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me at all, to have a 200 acre foot here, a 200 acre foot there, 100 acre foot maybe somewhere else, because the places you're citing aren't going to give much capacity.
There were larger
So,
capacity.
that's a problem. I mean, it's sort of pie in the sky, really. I still think, after talking to the superintendent at Whale Rock, why am I getting answers and you still feel that there are possibilities? If everybody on this R&I committee would take a look at the last agenda packet for San Simeon's board meeting, for their April board meeting, I think it was April 1st or something like that. There's a letter written by the interim general manager, and he makes it very clear that the Coastal Commission has asked for San Simeon to have their wastewater treatment plant moved from its current location. And in the language, it says there is to be no effluent pipeline going to the ocean anymore. They will not be allowed that with a new wastewater treatment plant. And by the way, they only need something very small for, what is it? They have a very small amount that they're even using per year. So I don't understand that connection, but I would strongly suggest you read that letter, in which it makes it very clear that current facility has to be moved. It has to be taken down. And so might be well worth looking at that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I'm great.
Okay, I wasn't trying to stop you. I
No,
was
that's
just
okay.
trying to let her finish her comment.
The locations are more advantageous for high flows during storm events. And they're also larger storage facilities than the drywall or the
Okay.
dry finished.
Mr. Reaper, do you know what the capacity is of the 3 reservoirs that has been looked at in the past?
Yes, the Cambria Meadows one, there were 2 options given. One was 1,200 acre feet. The other was, if they raise the height of the dam 3 more feet, it was going to be about 1,422. The second one they looked at was a site that has 12 acres of avocados planted on it, and I think that was going to be about 850 acre feet. Yeah, they did a full geotech study, which is part of that document, that at least the one on just upstream from the Warren property. And then the one on the main stem of Van Gordon Creek itself was also going to be about 1,200 acre feet. That one was not as advantageous because I think the final height of the reservoir was some 500 feet above sea level, so you're pumping the water up quite a ways.
I didn't get the first one you mentioned written down here.
Oh, which one,
The first one.
Oh, Cambria Meadows?
Yeah.
1,200 to 1,420. Depending on the height of the dam.
What's the date of that document?
1992, I believe.
1992?
Yeah,
This is an Army Corps of Engineers? thing?
No.
No?
this was,
Boyle?
no, it wasn't Boyle, it was somebody else.
Oh,
I can get you a copy of it when I
Is
finish.
it in the CCSD website? Is it,
No,
and that's
it's not.
not there anymore? Okay.
Will you make it available to all of us once you get it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be
Yeah,
great,
you
thank
just
you.
give it to the ad hoc committee.
I will absolutely go to the
Okay,
ad hoc.
and whatever information you have on the Warren well, can you give that to the?
The Warren Reservoir? Yeah,
Warren
I unearthed the geotechnical report for that reservoir site. I can pass that along.
All the technical for the Warren well was in that 2013.
Oh, it was in the 2013, okay.
They give site-specific volumes.
Mhm. Okay. Good. Okay, so,
And on this subject, as far as the opinion, I was thinking of titling more of an endorsement. It's more of like a staff GM decision to be a part of that, but we're looking for the endorsement rather than approval. Does that make sense?
Yes.
okay. So would anyone like to move to approve or endorse the staff's participation in the countywide task force for drought resiliency policies? Julie?
Yes, I would love to. Do I make a motion or is that the motion?
Motion.
I'd like to motion that we attend and become actively involved in the task force.
Okay, second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call, Julie, and Miss Amaday, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Meeks,
Aye.
Mr. Seaver,
Aye.
and Mr. Williams.
Aye.
I didn't forget you this time.
Thank you.
It's unanimous then. Okay, future agenda items. So we are going to have a special meeting next Monday at 12:30, where we are going to be discussing the CIP list. And we have another item on the agenda as well, I believe,
Do, advanced clean fleet.
the Advanced Clean Fleet. Okay,
So did that meeting get set up next Monday?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
15th at 12:30.
Okay, and we, I believe we're gonna have two committee members missing. Okay. And it's Ms. Webb and Mr. Seaver. Okay,
So it's the 15th?
yes, at 12:30. Okay, so our following meeting in May, you have any future agenda items? We're looking at cogen. We're gonna be ready to.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, anything else? There was something else. I just-
Potentially the annual water supply and demand assessment.
Okay. Okay, and then will we have another report from the ad hoc committee on water supply alternatives?
Sure, why not? I note in the meeting minutes from last month, there was sort of a point made
Just
by
an
Department
update.
Manager Green saying it's probably a good idea just to have regular updates at these
Yeah.
meetings. That was gonna be my
That's
point.
what
Yeah.
I was asking. Are we
Yeah,
going
we
to
can
have
do
an
that much,
update?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Any suggestions from the two sitting down there? Okay. Anybody on Zoom have a suggestion for a future agenda item? Not seeing anybody? Okay. If there are no objections, we can go ahead and adjourn, and it is 3:03 PM. Thank you.